Now we're on Daf Tezayin Amid Beis. Kidlas mani, in the Mishnah that holds that a mitzvah is megaleach, even in Tiglach Hashniya Kol Gufo Kidlas, just like the Tiglachas Rishona, that reflects Rabbi Akiva. The Dorish Ribuye Umiyute. Rabbi Akiva accepts the methodology of Ribuy Umiyut. When we have a pasuk that at the beginning it says we often klol l'ravas hakol, then we have a lashon be often prati, which seems to imply only that which is explicit in the pasuk. The Torah, in such cases, intends that we should not be marbe through the ribuy rishon as kol advarim, but rather we should be mamayit dvarim she'enam ke'ena prat. Now the Torah adds afterwards a lashon ribuy, and the intention is that we should be marbe everything, and we should only exclude a davar she'ena dome klal l'miyut. It's not at all similar to the miyut. And so too, as far as Tiglachas Mitzorah, Rabbi Akiva holds exactly what we're going to see now in an explicit brisa, the Sanya, for Yomi Yom HaShvi Galachas Kol Sioro, Riba, implying Kol Saraguf, wherever his hair is on his body. Then it says, as Roshoves Kanoves Gavoseina, Miet, that he doesn't do Giluach of all the hairs on his body, but only Mokum Kinus Vinira. Now the Torah says, Ves Kol Besori Galach, Chaza Veriva. So what's the methodology, the principle that applies in such a case? Riba Umiut Veriba, Riba HaKol. So the ribui comes to include even that which is not similar to the prat, and therefore interpret it thusly. My riba de kule gufa. The ribui here is coming to include as kol sa'aro yigaleach, all the hair on his body, even that which is not konus vinire. Umay mute. So what about the miyud of Esrosho, Eskonov, Eskabos, Einov? Miyod seir shebetocha chotem. That he doesn't need to be megaleach hairs that are in his nose. So this is the least likely hair to have been shaved, since it is not visible at all, as opposed to the hairs of the underarm, which is at least as visible when a person raises his arm. So the case of Mitzorah is not going to be an example of Haloch L'Moshe Misinai Okeves Mikra, because the Brisa, which stated that the pasuk is teaching us that Tiglach Hashni applies only to hair that is konus and nira, argues against the Mishnah Negoim, which states that all of the Mitzorah's hair is shaved off. So the Mishnah in the Goyim, which holds that Mitzorah's Megalea Kol Gufo Kidlas, in Tiglach Hashni like Tiglach Rishona, that reflects the Shita of Rabbi Akiva. But the Brisa that holds that Mitzor B'Tiglach Hashni is Megalech Rak Mokom Kinus Seir V'Nira, that reflects the Shita of Rabbi Shmuel. So we don't have, according to that Brisa of Rabbi Shmuel, a case of halacho keres mikra. Once again, so we don't have the shear, and therefore would imply that in the case of hashkas sotah, we would require offer and not afer. Is my Havila, what's the final decision? In other words, do we say that the fact that Rabbi Shmuel omitted afer instead of ofar, fashkas sota, as a case of halacha moshe misinai or keves mikra, is because in fact he omits it deliberately because he holds that afer cannot substitute for ofar. Or is there a possibility somehow of saying Tana Vashir? I mean, we don't know exactly which would be the case of Tana Vashir. Toshma de Omer Rav Huna Bar Ashi Omer Rav Ein Shom Ofar Mevi Rak Vuvis Yerek Umakadish. So he brings, in a case where there's no earth, the dust of a decayed vegetable, and he's mekadesh it. He brings it into the heichal, place it into the ground. The heichal is mekadesh it. Then he picks it up again, puts it into the water. Fashkas sota. Now, if the dust of a decayed vegetable can be used, then it's reasonable to assume that afer ashes may also be used. Velohi. Gemara rejects this comparison. Makruvis yarek udavi ofar, but afer lo havi ofar. So since afer is not ofar, it's not at all similar to karka mishka. And the Rambam holds that the Masechet of Sugya is that you cannot use afer as a substitute for offer. Rashi, in contrast, holds that the Masechet Gemara is that afer can be a substitute for offer. He changes the girsa of our Gemara and he erases the words velohi. And the Gemara's raya that if rakvuvis shal yerek is offer, then certainly afer is also offer. Now the Mishnah says that in the Migdash there was a place that was amal amma, and that's where they took out the offer and they put it into the mayim. The shear of Kadeshi Roy al Hamayim. Ton Ramon. Shlosha Tzrichim Sheiro. Afar Sotah. Right, when the Kohen puts the offer from the Karka the Mishkan to the Mayim HaKadoshim, he needs a shear of offer that's Yehi Nira V'Nikar Al Pnei HaMayim, because it says in the Torah, Min HaOfar Yikach HaKohen V'Nosan El HaMayim. It doesn't say V'Nosan B'Mayim, but El HaMayim, which means that Torah is makbid that it shouldn't be completely absorbed by the Mayim, but rather it should be seen and visible Al Pnei HaMayim. Next, the Efer Parah. The Torah says, "V'lokhu latamei me'afar sreifas achatos v'nasan olav mayim chaim el keli." In Parshas Chukas, Behind it means that when a person was contaminated to mismes, then in the purification process, we do azos mechatos, which is efer para mu'urav b'mayim. And the efer has to be visible al pnei mayim. And that's based on Xeris Shava that we derive efer para from ofar sotah. And finally, we have Virok Yivama, right? That when a woman falls for Yibum, and if he's not going to be Yavim, he gives a Chalitza. Second. And it says in the Pasuk, V'choltza na'alo me'al raglo, v'yarka b'fanav. And only afterwards she can marry l'chol adam. So that eureka, that spitting, needs to be nireis la'ene hadayon. And the Gemara in Yevamos Kuf Aleph Amid Beis, Amarova tzrichi dayoni lemechse roka ki nofik mipume diyavam. Tichsivli ene hazkenim v'yarka. Mishum Avishmal Amru, Aftam tzipor shel mitzora also has to be nira al pnei hamayim. So the taras hamitzora is through shnei tziporim. One is shechted into a kli cheres, which has mayim chaim, and you need that the dam should be nira al pnei hamayim. Therefore, you shouldn't put too much water into the kli. Just enough that there's some water there, but the dam at tzipor is nikar in the mayim. My time in the Rabbi Shmuel. What's the logic of Rabbi Shmuel to include dam tzipor shel mitzora that you need yir al pnei hamayim? Tichsiv, the pasuk says vayikra yudalid es hatzipor chaya yikach osa ves eitz ha'erez ves shniya tolos ves ha'izov v'toval osam. Right, he takes the tzipor chaya b'dam tzipor shchuta. And what is bidam? Yochel, I would think that he has to be matbil, the tzipar chaya, bidam, tzipar shchuta, velo b'mayim. I wouldn't get the impression that he needs to be matbil even in mayim. Talmud lomar, the Torah adds b'mayim. Okay, mayim. If the Torah would have said mayim without ba mayim, Yochel, I would have mistakenly come to the conclusion it has to be matbil tzipar chaya only in mayim chayim, but not in dam, meaning not in the dam of the tzipar hashkuta. Talmud lomar, the Torah therefore writes bidam. Hakesad. How do we reconcile these two psukim? And the answer is maybe mayim. But how much mayim should dam tzipor nikar behem? V'kama revius. So he needs a shear of mayim of a revius. Rabbanon, they did not include dam tzipor in this list of tzrichim sheiro, which means that the dam does not have to be nikar. So what are they darshan from the pasuk b'dam u'b'mayim? And the Gemara says hahula gufei. So we need to know about azah here, that it's got to be a combination of dam and mayim, even if the dam is not nika. So Gemara asks Rabbi Shmuel, how is he able to darshan from the pasuk b'dam u'b'mayim that you need the dam to be nikar, and therefore you should only put enough mayim, a shear of revius? But the pasuk is needed legufo, that you need to be matbil at tzipar chaya b'dam u'b'mayim. And Rabbi Shmuel answers him, Cain, if the pasuk was only legufo, lichtov rachmona v'toval bohem. It would have been enough to say that he has to be matbil the dam and the mayim b'dam u'mayim lomali. Why did the Torah have to add they should be sheyitbal b'dam u'b'mayim? It must be l'nikar, to teach us that he brings that limited amount of mayim that allows the dam to be nikar in the mayim. So Gemara says Rabbanon, they need the pasuk with gufo. So why did the Torah go back and repeat b'dam u'b'mayim, which should have been enough to say b'ahem? My answer is because Rachmana v'Tavil b'ahem hava mina hay l'chudei v'hay l'chudei. That you have two keli, he puts dam in one keli and mayim chaim in the other keli, and yitbal tchila b'kli echad, and v'achar kach yitbal b'kli achar. I would never know that you have to put the dam and the mayim in one kli. It's therefore kos rachmana b'dam u'v'mayim, to teach us le'arvan that they both should be put into one kli. So when I asked Rabbi Shmuel, how could he interpret that the Torah means to go ahead and b'dam mayim to teach me that you need the dam nikar b'mayim, but the pasuk is needed to teach me that you have to mix the dam and the mayim. And where it says la'arvan krachrina ksiv, to derive the conclusion they have to mix the dam and the mayim for the tibul, that we know from the pasuk v'shachares atzipar achas el kli charash al mayim chayim. So he shechts the tzipar into a kli together with mayim chayim. So we already know that from the time of the shechita we have a taroves of dam and mayim in one kli. So therefore it's totally superfluous to darshan b'dam u'v'mayim as telling me that you need to mix them up in one kli. And therefore, since I don't need that, therefore b'dam u'v'mayim is going to teach me that I need dam nikar. Rabbanon, imi hahu, if from the pasuk v'shachades hatzipar al hamayim, if I only had that pasuk, I would have thought lishchetei samach lemona, that the Torah is telling me that you have to shech the tzipar in close proximity to the kli that has mayim chayim. V'nin kinitinu livridin, and you should hold on to the vridim bein etzba'osav, so that no dam would come out into the kli of mayim. Ulekabli l'dam b'monachrina, and he should be kabel l'dam in a different kli, kamashmal, and that's why he needs a pasuk v'tavalo sav b'dam u'v'mayim, to teach me that he should mix the dam in one kli with the mayim chayim. So if the pasuk would have only written v'taval bahem, I would have thought that hay l'chudei, as we said before, dam in one kli, mayim in another kli, and Rabbi Shmuel derives li'arvan to mix them from shachares hatzipar achas, which means that the dam and the mayim were mixed from the start. In other words, once they shechted the bird into the mayim, the dam and the mayim are mixed. That's obvious. Boy minei Rab Yirmiyah mi Rab Zera gidola umadeches es hamayim ktana v'nitches v'nei hamayim malu. Let's say the bird is so large that it's got enough dam to overwhelm the mayim, or if the bird is so small that its dam is overwhelmed by the water, mouth. So if the bird has so much blood that the revius of mayim into which the blood falls is totally overwhelmed, so it looks like pure blood, or the bird is so little and has such a little amount of blood in it that the revius of mayim dilutes the blood and the mixture looks like pure water. So this is the question of Yomi asked Reb Zera. Omalei. So Reb Zera responds, Lav hamincha, didn't I already tell you? Lo tapik nafshach lebar mihilchasa. Don't take yourself out of the framework of the halacha. Notice I told you not to doubt the precision of any measure fixed by Chazal. B'tzipar drar shiaru Rabbanan. The Rabbanan measured exactly how much water should be used for a bird that's called drar. So that the blood would be discernible in the water. You will not find a drar bird that's so large that its blood will overwhelm the water. Now back to Sotah. So he placed the earth into the kli before the water. Also, it's invalid. The Torah implies that the earth has to be put in to the vessel after the water is already there. Rabbi Shmuel Machshi, my time of the Rabbi Shmuel, so they shall take for the tameh some of the ashes of the burning of the chatos, and it says ofar. What do you mean by ofar? We're talking about not earth but ashes. Tanya v'chi ofarhu, Omer Reb Shimon v'chi ofar halo efarhu. Nishina kosu b'mashmo lodun heimenu gzera shava. Nemer kan ofar v'nemer kan ofar lahalan ofar. So in the parsha Paradum it says ofar, and in the parsha of Hashkas Sotah it says ofar malahalan ofar gabi mayim. In the case of the Sotah, the ofar, the earth should be placed upon the mayim. Afkan, so to Paraduma, the offer should be placed al gabi mayim. Umakan hiktim offer l'mayim kosher, aflahalan hiktim offer l'mayim kosher. Just like in the case of Paraduma, if he put the ashes into the vessel before he put the water in, it's valid, b'di'evet. So Gemara has to prove that, but is afla halon. So to the case of Ashkas Sotah, hikdim offer l'mayim kosher. If he puts in the offer first, and then the mayim second is kosher. The hasam minolan. How do we know taka that in the case of Paraduma, if the afer with the ashes were put into the vessel before the water, it's valid? B'di'evet. And the Gemara answers, Trey Kroi Ksiv, Ksiv Olav, Uksiv Mayim Chaim El Keli. So the Kohen should place water olav upon it, meaning on the ashes, is Alma of Efer Beresha. So the Efer comes first. But Ksiv, Mayim Chaim El Keli, which implies that the water should go into the kli without any ashes as a chatzitza between the water and the kli. Alma Mayim Beresha. So it seems that the water goes in first. Kate said, how do we reconcile this contradiction? Rotzas and nosin, rotzas and nosin. He could place any one of the two in the kli first. So why did Rabbanan disagree with Rav Shimon? For Rabbanan, El Kelly Dafka. The water must be placed first. El Kelly Dafka. Sheyite mikodem es hamayim. Uma shenichta b'Torah olav. That means la'arbavan. So after you put in the afer into the mayim, tzorach lahafoch es hamayim ala afer. And that's how he fulfills the word olav. So the Gemara asks, so how did Chachamim know that El Kelly is dafka right? And olav is shetzorch la'arbavan. How did Rabbanan know that? Ema, why not say olav dafka? Maybe the word olav is dafka, not El Kelly, but olav. And should be mocked him to put the afer mikodem. And El Kelly we're going to derive as a drasha shetei chiyusam b'kli. What is chiyusam b'kli? Sheba also kli yishav es hamayim chayim min hamayon v'lo sheyitol es hamayim me hamayim b'kli acher v'yitnu l'kli zeh. And the Gemara answers ma motzinu b'chol makom machshel lemala afkan machshel lemala. In Sotah, we saw that the offer, the earth, which is machshir, the mayim fashka, is placed on top of the mayim. So too in the dam tzipor shel mitzora, which is machshir, the mayim frazah, motzinu shu nitan me'al mayim. The dam is placed on top of the water. Afkan here too in mechatos. In the case of paraduma, yesh lefarish, similar, parallel. Shekavonas haTorah she'efer ha'machshir es hamayim lazot tzarich lios lemala. And if El Kelly is bedafka, sheyesh literes hamayim mikodem, he should put the water first, v'olav, meaning that he has to mix them together. And this leads us to the Mishnah on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph.